Hello everyone, welcome to Best Recapped Movie. Today we will show you the Immortal movie made in Italy in 2019. The film is made in the crime and drama genre, directed by Marco D'Amore. Spoilers ahead. After being fatally shot by Gennaro Savastano, Ciro Di Marzio is thrown into the water while hugging each other, and both have tears in their eyes. But he is saved in the Bay of Naples and treated by an unknown doctor. A woman was climbing the stairs at the same time in the distant years when the earthquake occurred. She reaches home and hugs Ciro, a baby, but the earthquake intensifies, and they fall. After removing the debris, it is found that Ciro's mother is dead, but Ciro is alive. He is then employed by crime boss Don Aniello Pastor, who has links to the Russian Mafia in Latvia, run by Yuri Dobashenko, who are at odds with native Latvian gangs. Ciro goes to Latvia to deal with Dobashenko. After arriving at the airport, he is greeted by Dmitry, Dobashenko's representative. Dmitry accompanies Ciro to Dobashenko's office. After a little conversation between Ciro and Dobashenko, they agreed on the shipment that would reach Ciro in the next 2 days. After that, Ciro gets separated from them, and along the way, their car is targeted by another vehicle. They kill the driver. A member of the local Latvian Mafia group takes Ciro in his car to take him to his boss. After that, Ciro meets the head of the Latvian Mafia, Emils. Emils expresses his anger at the presence of the Russian Mafia in Latvia and asks Ciro to sell him the cocaine. But Ciro says that he is only an employee on behalf of the seller and that the seller also deals with the Russians. They threaten Ciro with death if he deals with Yuri Dobashenko. Don Aniello calls Ciro and says the shipment has arrived and sends one of his men to him. The following day, Ciro meets the person Aniello sent. Ciro is surprised to see him and stares at him. Bruno introduces himself while Ciro is still staring at him. Also, Bruno asks Ciro to get into the van to show him around, and they both get into the truck. 30 years ago, when Ciro was a member of a band of thieves, he cheated his employer inside a mechanic shop and stole equipment from him. The owner of the mechanic runs after him, but since Ciro is speedy, he manages to escape. He reaches the group in the early hours of the night and leaves the stolen items in the hands of his supervisor, Bruno. Then, at the children's request, Bruno talks about a famous Italian mafia, the Black Bird. Ciro asks Bruno how he can look like the Blackbird. Bruno replies, "Never trust anyone and fear nothing." Ciro says, "I'm not afraid of anything," and the rest of the kids confirm that he's immortal. And Ciro once again asks Bruno if he wants to be like the Blackbird, and Bruno answers that he will be even better than him. Then Bruno and his business partner get into the car with the children and go to one of the city's quiet streets to steal. Bruno breaks the windows of the cars, and the kids steal the car radios. After stealing and escaping from that place, they return to their camp. After taking off his clothes, Ciro goes to bed and closes his eyes after saying goodnight to his friends. In the present, Bruno is driving, and Ciro is looking out. Bruno takes Ciro to his warehouse. He transforms stock products into original brands and introduces them to the market there. Introducing his people to Ciro, Bruno announces that they are ready to provide him with any service, then introduces Virgilio and says he is his right-hand man. Their wives also work in the same shed, and Bruno takes Ciro to introduce them to him. Then he asks Vera, Virgilio's wife, to come forward and asks her if she has prepared the house for Ciro, and Vera says yes, as you said. After that, Bruno shows Ciro the grounds of the house. He and his people all live in the buildings there. And then, he shows him Ciro's place. Ciro picks up the cocaine in his wooden items and places them all on the table. Suddenly, seeing Bruno's people from behind the curtain, a thought comes to his mind. At night at the bar, after Bruno sits next to Ciro, Ciro tells him that he has a problem and asks him to help, but he also tells him the danger of doing so. In response, Bruno says he and his people are ready to do whatever it takes. Vera, Virgilio, and the rest of the group get into the van and go to Yuri Dobashenko's office carrying the cocaine. On the other hand, Ciro goes to the Latvian Mafia group that threatens him. Vera and the rest of the group endure a lot of stress. After their van pulls into the parking lot, they meet Yuri Dobashenko's men and deliver the cocaine packages they had hidden. Vera also gives them the packages that she had hidden under her clothes. At the same time, Ciro enters the area of Emils and his people. Emils tells Ciro that he chose the right thing, and his agent translates it. Suddenly, Armed men come out from behind the car and shoot Emil's men, and in this conflict, Ciro kills Emil's. Most of the members of this mafia group are killed by Ciro and his men, but the representative of Emil's and some of his men escape by car. Ciro goes to meet Dobroshenko, and before drinking Dobroshenko's drink, he tells him that you now have my protection and blessings. Bruno and the others gather at the house, and Vera believes they have done something dangerous. On the other hand, Virgilio thinks that their lives are short and they chose the right thing. Virgilio says you think I don't have the supply, but Vera replies I'm just afraid. In the meantime, Ciro arrives and hands them a bag full of money. Then he says that the choice is yours whether you want to continue. Vera asks, are you sure the option is ours? Ciro says it is always a choice that exists in life, but it is hard to return from it. After Ciro leaves the house, Bruno calls him and tells him that he feels alive after 30 years and that he has never forgotten Ciro. We have a flashback to 30 years ago when morning comes, and Bruno enters the camp to wake up the children. Bruno goes to Ciro to wake him up and says he has a surprise. Bruno takes them to a bakery to eat fresh bread. Bruno becomes a cigarette smuggling agent from the mafia boss known as the Blackbird. He happily promises his business partner and Ciro to dinner at the restaurant and to take Ciro to Stella. Stella is Bruno's girlfriend, and she sings in the restaurant, and Ciro is lost in her beauty as he adores her. After the song, Bruno kisses Stella, and Stella joins them at the dinner table. Stella asks Ciro what you think about the song, and Ciro says you will be the best singer in the world. Then someone disturbs them, and Bruno hits him on the head with a bottle. They run away from the restaurant because of a fight, and after some time, all three laugh. Currently, after 1 year, Ciro and Dobroshenko are making good progress. And Bruno's warehouse has turned into a drug factory, and everyone is actually working for Ciro. Vera asks Ciro to join them for the party at night. Ciro asks Virgilio to go outside to report. Then Virgilio gives him reports from Naples. He reports that Gennaro has left Naples and that he has bought a villa in Posillipo and started a new life. After Ciro says that Gennaro is like his brother, Virgilio tells him, I would never have shot my brother. Ciro says I asked him because Gennaro had a better reason to live. Virgilio then talks about being a coward and that Vera doesn't like him, and he says that courage can't be bought. Still, Ciro says he's not brave either and is not afraid just because he has nothing to lose. Ciro goes to Dobroshenko, and after a little conversation, Yuri asks Ciro to attend his party after 1 year of cooperation. Still, Ciro says that he has his plans for the night. Vera is dancing at the family party attended by everyone, and Ciro secretly looks at her. He leaves the party and smokes outside, and Bruno joins him. After that, Bruno says that he is old and has to return to Naples, that his people now consider Ciro the group leader, and that he made Virgilio in charge of the group. Ciro agrees, and Bruno thanks him. The next day, the women tell Vera that Ciro was watching her last night, but Vera gets upset and tells them that Ciro is lonely and doesn't care about these things. Vera comes to Ciro's house to change her bed sheet. At this time, Ciro looks at her like he has affection for her. After finishing her work, Vera tells Ciro that she didn't like him at first, but then she says she didn't make the proper judgment. After Vera leaves, Ciro remembers his memory of Stella 30 years ago and also the gift he gave her. He was fixing his hair in the mirror, and his friends told him he wanted to see his girlfriend. Now the natives of Latvia, who had previously killed their chief Emils, are attacking the warehouse. They injure Virgilio and the rest of the group and steal all the cocaine. After Ciro arrives, Dimitri tells him that, unfortunately, you have to come with me. As soon as Ciro reaches the warehouse, he meets Dobroshenko, who is very angry and says, I lost 4 of my people and also 150 kilos of cocaine, and you are responsible, Ciro. Ciro walks over to Virgilio, who is seriously injured. Virgilio says it wasn't us who stole, and we didn't betray. Ciro then asks Dobroshenko not to threaten his men, but Dobroshenko kills Virgilio, giving Ciro 24 hours to make amends. Ciro, extremely angry with Dobroshenko, goes with Bruno to the local group and the person who replaced Emils. After they meet, Ciro convinces him to be on the same front against Doboshenko. Still, he asks how I can trust you. Ciro replies that our enemy is the same, and you will be the master of your own country again. In another flashback, we see the police chasing Bruno. Ciro jumps into the water to save him and draws the attention of the police to save himself. After being rescued by the police, Ciro goes home and tells the whole story to Stella. After Stella dries him off, Bruno arrives home after running from the cops. Bruno is happy that Ciro saved him and tells him to get ready to see the Blackbird, and they will make a lot of money. Bruno and Ciro go to the club to see Blackbird, and Blackbird asks them to come forward. Blackbird praises Ciro for fooling the cops and pays him for his gratitude. However, he is angry with Bruno and humiliates him in front of the crowd, calling him uncharacteristic and ugly. When Bruno returns, he says he is useless because he can't stand up to Blackbird. But Ciro says you are the best, and I wish I had a father like you. Bruno decides to betray Blackbird and steals one of his contraband. In the present, Bruno returns home and asks everyone to leave the room so he can discuss something with Vera. Then he informs him of Virgilio's death. After putting his hands on his face, he asks her to do something for him and, at the same time, remembers his childhood memories. Bruno puts his hands on Ciro's face and asks him to go to Blackbird and tell him that we made a mistake and we will make amends because he trusts Ciro. Blackbird and his men arrive while Bruno and his friend ambush Blackbird with their men to kill him. They shoot at each other, and Bruno's friend is killed. Ciro barely escapes from the conflict. Currently, Ciro takes Bruno with him to meet the Latvian Mafia group. After they meet, they announce their readiness to attack Doboshenko during a conversation. Ciro and Bruno get into the car, and shortly after, Ciro tells Bruno, "I know you were the one who cheated." Bruno is surprised by his words, and Ciro remembers Stella. He was running to Stella to save her because he knew Blackbird might kill Stella because of Bruno. Stella leaves the restaurant after finishing her work with Ciro's gift in her ear. Unfortunately, Ciro arrives late to Stella, and Blackbird's men come before him and kill her. In the present, Bruno defends his work and says he wants to quit at the top, but Ciro blames him for Virgilio's murder. Bruno says that he intended to betray Ciro because of the dream that Bruno had, which Ciro achieved. Finally, Ciro says he is not a child now, and everything is different. And then he moves away from the cars behind him, and all three vehicles explode. Ciro gets out of the car, tells Bruno to get out too, and then says if Stella was alive, how old would she be now? Now, Doboshenko and his men arrive while Vera is also with them. Bruno is ashamed when he sees Vera and asks Ciro to kill him, but Ciro says that death is a gift that does not belong to him and lets him go. Doboshenko tells Ciro he should not leave his enemy alive. Ciro says I will do the same, and then he shoots at Doboshenko. He already coordinated with Dmitri and told him no boss, and also took revenge on Virgilio. It was because of Stella that, in the past, Ciro's path was separated from Bruno, and he started working in a new way. At the movie's end, Gennaro returns, and while Ciro's eyes are in tears and the two go to each other, the film ends. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.